بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وبارك على الأشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد حياكم الله إخوان جزاكم الله خيرا. Alhamdulillah, we've now reached our sixth foundation from these six foundations. Essentially, inshallah, we intend for this to be the final one of our lessons, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. And this is the foundation mentioned by Shaykh al-Islām Muḥammad Abdul Wahhāb, where he mentions al-Uṣūl as-Sādis رد الشبهة التي وضعها الله شيطان في ترك القرآن والسنة. The shubha which the shaitan has placed, causing people to leave off the Qur'an and the Sunnah. واعتبار الآراء والأهواء المتفرقة مختلفة, and to follow the opinions and the desires which are split and of different types. وأن القرآن والسنة لا يعرفهما إلا مجتهد مطلق. And that they will say that as for the Qur'an and Sunnah, the mujtahid mutlaq, this is the only one that can have understanding of it. Then they mention the wasf, the description of this mujtahid mutlaq, and they mention a description of them. It says perhaps this particular description you would not find even within, completely within Abu Bakr and Umar. It mentions essentially that the amount of conditions that they place within this, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. So we begin by mentioning that this particular foundation, Shaykh al-Islam Muḥammad Abdul Wahhāb, he concludes this foundation, or these six foundations rather, بهذا الأصل, with this particular one. And it's a warning essentially. This is a tahdhir. This foundation in of itself is a tahdhir, and it's a warning against falling into the error. الذي وقع فيه كثير من الناس, which you find many of the people had fallen into. And so whoever essentially wants النجاة, salvation, والفوز, success, فعليه فهم هذا الأصل. Upon him, alhamdulillah, upon him is to understand this particular foundation. This foundation essentially, again, is a warning against those that seek to lead the people away from understanding the Qur'an and the Sunnah and studying the Qur'an and the Sunnah, by way of placing within it conditions and great difficulty, stating that you will not fully understand it unless you have these particular attributes. But they mention so many attributes, to the extent that Shaykh al-Islam Muḥammad Abdul Wahhāb, he mentions that perhaps we wouldn't find these attributes in Abu Bakr and Umar completely. So they're large in amount, these attributes, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. Thereafter, so that's the first point. The first point is that this foundation in of itself is that it's a warning. It's a warning against this particular understanding. Our second point is that, as Shaykh al-Islam Muḥammad ibn Abdul Wahhāb mentions here, it's a radd al-shubha. It's a refutation of the shubha. And what is understood here by the word shubha is al-iltibas. Al-iltibas. So it's something that has been disguised essentially. And so when it comes to the shubha, the reality of the shubha is that a shubha itself is something that presents itself to the qalb. As Ibn Qayyim raḥimahullāh mentions, it presents itself to the qalb. And it presents itself where it is resembling to the haqq. It's something between the haqq and batil. But it's the manner in which it presents itself to the qalb, as Ibn Qayyim mentions. Likewise, al-Thawri raḥimahullah, he mentions, ليس من ضلالة إلا عليها زينة. ليس من ضلالة إلا عليها زينة. There is no form of misguidance except that what is placed upon it is beautification. It's beautified. The answer of this, the kalima al-Thawri. So we understand from this, any form of shubha, the shubha as a reality is, it's a shubha, it's a doubt in of itself because it's shabihan lil-haq. It's shabihan, is something that is comparative, or shabihatun, comparative to the truth itself. So when a person sees it, and what they recognize to be the truth, this shubha resembles it. Because the reality is that a person, or the shaitan, when he comes to an individual, he will come to the individual, generally speaking, in increments. He will not come to the individual now with the affair of something which is completely ba'id and al-haq, and what they recognize to be the haq. Rather, the shaitan will approach the individual in increments. What's a clear example of that? Barakallahu feekum, ikhwan. What's an example of that? How shaitan will approach the people in increments.
Zina.
Zina, possibly, now.
Curse of shirk.
The
Curse of shirk.
the bidayah to shirk. How shirk began? Naam, and shirk began how? Did it begin with just worship other than Allah?
The righteous people, and they died and they made pictures of them.
Naam.
To remember them.
They began with essentially the tasweer, now, the picture making. And incrementally, it began from there. So now, the shaitan approached the people with a manner, or the shubha, because it resembled the haqq. And it resembled the haqq, no doubt, was ihtiram li-salihin. Now, so the matter of having ihtiram, having respect for those that are from the righteous, was established, and something we know. Something we recognize in deen. However, when it came to the shaitan approaching, he used that matter of haqq, ihtiram al-salihin, but now entered upon them this matter of their tasweer. It was not from what they had been called to before. And so what we understand from this matter of shubha, as the authority mentioned, is that there's always upon it some form of zina, a beautification. And then it will lead the person astray further and further and further away. Hence why Ibn Qayyim raḥimahullah, likewise, he mentions why the bid'ah is worse than the kabā'ir al-dhunūb. Why innovations is worse than the kabā'ir al-dhunūb. Innovations are worse than the major sins. He mentions that in relation to the innovation, huwa dhanb lā yutābu minhu. That is a sin which is not sought tawbah, the person does not seek tawbah from. And it's a dhanb fi dhat ad-deen. And it's a dhanb, it's a sin that occurs in a person's religion in of itself. So because of that, now it's greater, it's more harmful. It corrupts a person's deen. And along with that, the person does not, generally speaking, of course, seek tawbah from it. Why? Because the bid'ah is something which is a matter which has been beautified to the individual. And so this is why the Shaykh here mentions it's the rad of the shubha. It's the doubt that needs to be refuted. The doubt again being that the person leaves off the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Essentially, we understand because it's explained to be something which is too complicated to understand. It's too complex. And so the person should seek simplicity. And the only time you should seek understanding and have knowledge of the Qur'an and Sunnah is if you're the mujtahid mutlaq. The mujtahid mutlaq. That's only for the mujtahideen. Well, asaf, this particular statement or these particular words are words that may be repeated as well by others when seeking to reject some ahkam in deen as well, where a particular issue is brought to them from muharramat, stay from this issue, it's haram, for example. And the response is that because they're not mujtahid, they are not going to seek anything further, any further understanding of it. And there's ikhtilaf in this matter, and they're not mujtahid. The reality is that you seek the haqq. You worship Allah upon ilm and basira. And so, when it comes to these issues, the individual, no doubt, he should seek knowledge. And so, this is why Shaykh al-Islām, Muḥammad Abdul Wahhāb, seeks to refute this particular doubt. Our third point, barakallahu feekum, is that indeed the kashf al-shubha, removing the doubt and exposure of the doubt, يحتاج إلى العلم الصحيح. Removal of the doubt is in need of sound knowledge. Remove the doubt is in need of sound knowledge. And so a person cannot remove doubts by way of other than that, other than nusus, other than and correct texts. So you find, for example, an individual may seek to remove shubha and just use a shubha and seek to use logic and just base everything upon logic. Or they seek to remove a shubha, and you find this, people seek to remove a doubt or to seek to refute a doubt, and they use nothing but science. Now, mathalan, what you find with these things is that the shubuhat, if they resemble to the haqq, then no doubt you need the haqq in order to reject them. And the haqq is not found except within the nusus, within the text. And so, this, no doubt, first and foremost, essentially is the first point of rejection of this shubha in of itself, of the need to be a mujtahid mutlaq. That in order to reject shubuhat, whether it be this shubha or any other doubt like it, you need knowledge. And knowledge is not found except within the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Knowledge is not found in its entirety except within the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Barakallahu feekum. As for our fourth point, then the shubha itself is that the person cannot look into the Qur'an and the Sunnah and study the Qur'an and the Sunnah, and no one has true knowledge of Qur'an and Sunnah except for the mujtahid mutlaq. And the mujtahid, they mention with all these conditions. And what they mean by way of this is that no one is permitted to look at the dalil, look at the proof, except for the one that is mujtahid. This particular shubha here, this particular doubt here, no doubt, is one which fosters and encourages this affair of taqleed. It fosters and encourages taqleed. That the person leaves off the adillah, the proof, and that which is understood from the proofs. And rather that the individual, he clings to the statement of Shaykh Fulan or Imam Fulan, whoever it may be, even if that statement opposes the truth. So, and this is what you find, for example, if we use the example of the taqleed of the madhahib. The person says, no matter what, I'm Hanafi. If Abu Hanifa says it, I'm going to do it. No matter what, I'm Shafi'i. If Imam Shafi'i says it, I'm going to do it. Now, this person clings to that. I don't know if you present them something which opposes that, from the adillah, then the response would be that you do not understand the adillah, nor do I, because we're not the mujtahid. So we will go to take from this particular statement. But they have the nusus that mention to us the importance of clinging to nothing other than the Qur'an and the Sunnah. وَاتَّسِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on firm to the rope of Allah, all of you. Hold on firm to the rope of Allah, all of you. Be not divided. Naam. أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول. Obey Allah and obey the Messenger. The statement of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, where he mentions عليك بسنتي وسنة خلفاء راشدين المهدي من بعدي عضوا عليها بالنواجذ. Upon you is my sunnah and the sunnah of the خلفاء الراشدين المهديين, يعني those that came after me. عضوا عليها بالنواجذ. Hold on firm to with your molar teeth. This is what we've been told to cling on to and adhere to. And the statement itself, referring to Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the statement referring to Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah refers also to the fact that these are individuals that come together upon the Sunnah of the Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam, and they give taqdeem, they give precedence to the Sunnah of the Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam over and above, as mentioned, the ara wal ahwa, over and above the opinions and the ahwa and the desires, ittiba' al hawa. Along with that, we have our fifth point, and this is found in some of the nusukh, some of the copies of the text of Shaykh al-Islām Muḥammad Abdul Wahhāb, in some of the text of al-Sittah, where he mentions وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ. He mentioned وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ. This statement here is a refutation, or is an exclamation, if you like, an expression, now an expression of yani surprise, or expression of or an explanation in of itself. This claim is due to the fact that the evil that is found within that shubha itself, the evil that is found within that doubt, and what it leads to, as we mentioned, that you have these statements here, and these conditions cannot be found except with fulan and fulan and fulan. All of these particular in the awsaf. And with that, there is, as we mentioned, rejection of the truth. Because there are ashya, as mentioned by Shaykh Fawzan, ashya wadiha, يعرفها العامل ويعرفها المتعلم. You know, there are things in the modern deen that the ami, the general person, will know, and the muta'allim, the one that has studied or one that has some degree of knowledge, will know. Now, and no doubt there are things min ad-deen, the affairs from the deen of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, which are referred to as ma'loom bid-darura. There are affairs within our religion that are ma'loom bid-darura, that they are known, and are known by necessity. And it's upon everyone to have knowledge of it. And so no one can now say that this is left to the mujtahid mutlaq, as mentioned here. The mujtahid mutlaq, he will suffice in having knowledge of it. And that's the matter of tawḥīd itself. As Allah Ta'ala mentions, wa'budullaha wa la tushriku bihi shay'an. I worship Allah Ta'ala alone, and do not associate anything in partnership with Him. Allah Ta'ala's command within this ayah is one where every single individual must have knowledge and act upon it. A person cannot now use the excuse of jahl when they do not act upon this matter of tawḥīd, or when they are negligent when it comes to the matter of shirk. So this is just one example. Now, this is just one example. And with that as well, we understand that the individual must seek knowledge in all matters that he actually seeking to act upon. Likewise, we have the ayah, Surah An-Nisa, where Allah Ta'ala mentions, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, and will they not ponder upon the Qur'an? Ayat is tadabbur, is pondering upon the ayat. No doubt is a pondering so that the person may take heed of it and act upon it and benefit from it. And it's not just a pondering for the sake of it. And Shaykh Fawzan goes on to mention, كل يعرف من القرآن ما يسر الله له فالعامي يحصل عليه وعلى ما يستطيع والمتعلم يحصل على ما يستطيع. And so everyone will attain from the Qur'an that which they're able. I was talking about the nusus. Everyone may attain from it that which they're able. So the army, the general person, will attain that which he's able to attain. Whilst the one that's muta'allim, the talib ilm, is able to attain from that whatever he's able to attain. And so with that, we understand that this matter of ijtihād, or ijtihād, and as well as talab al-ilm, is one, no doubt, which has its particular standing, but at the same time does not negate the fact that the general person should seek knowledge in that which is beneficial to them, and that which is good for them, and good for their deen. The next point, following on from that, I believe it's our sixth point, is in relation to the matter of ijtihād itself. The matter of ijtihād itself. And that ijtihād, the one that is able to strive, and what we understand from the ijtihād is that the one is able to exert himself, and it's an exertion of the faqih, the one that has understanding, in order to attain a hukm shar'i, amali, in order to attain a hukm within the sharia that he may act upon. And this is by way of his ilm of the ayat and ahadith. By way of his ilm of the ayat and the ahadith. This is ijtihād. So the person has the text. So he has the text in front of him, whether it's the ayat or it's the ahadith. And he has the tools, the ilm al-alam. So he has the tools as well. What example of the tools, barakallahu feekum?
Knowing the Arabic language.
Arabic language, of course. What else? The scholars. No, these are the scholars, for example. What tools do they need? So they've got the text. What tools do they need to use those texts? If you look at like this, the texts are like the bricks. What do they use to make the building, which is the hukm?
The understanding of the salaf.
The understanding of salaf. Okay, no. Arabic language, understanding of salaf. What else? Example, another ilm, or type of knowledge that will aid them in coming to that understanding of hukm. Duriyat, but knowledge itself. Tafsir or usul tafsir. Now, so the foundation of tafsir in of itself, so the knowledge and the sciences of tafsir. How do you arrive at the rulings? Usul al-fiqh. Now, how do you derive rulings in terms of ahkam fiqhiyya? Naam. What else? That's all in usul al-fiqh though. So that's all within usul al-fiqh. Now, so usul al-fiqh will be everything regarding knowing the nasikh and mansukh, the mujmal, naam, from the or the mutlaq, naam, or the mutlaq al-muqayyad, for example, which is specific or specified, not which is general. Mujmal al-mufassal. Naam. What else? Another type. Another example would be qawaid sharia. Understanding there's particular principles in the sharia and that this can be applied to text. For example, a principle that maybe many people know would be a principle like al-yaqeen la yazulu bi-shakk. That certainty is not removed by way of doubt. So now you have that principle, then you have the text, and you apply this and that, and then you come to the hukm at the end. For example, naam. Likewise as well, another example would be ilm al-hadith, musalah hadith. Because you've been given a text. Before you can act upon it, what do you need to know? Is it authentic or not? The sahih and the saqim. That which is accepted and that which is not. And that's why you apply the principles of ilm al-hadith in order to accept, in order to take from those texts. Yes or no? And so this is what we understand from that. Allah Ta'ala knows best. The importance of that. And all of these things are within one, are important when it comes to this matter of ijtihād. So why we mention all these things here is the fact that ijtihād itself, this particular principle and the rad of this shubha, is not one now that diminishes ijtihād. Naam, and the alim using the tools at his disposal to bring about and to come to a conclusion and to a ruling, or the alim using the text at his disposal to come to a ruling. No, it's not the case. However, these two things can both be true. The fact that the alim and the mujtahid is the one that arrives at these rulings, and there's a particular makana, an ihtiram, and respect for what he's able to do. Whilst at the same time, the general person needs to know certain things anyway, and cannot rely upon that individual. And it's not a case of he just relies upon his knowledge for that. And so, going back to the first one we mentioned about the shubha, this is why it's a shubha. This is why the particular statement is a doubt in of itself, because the doubt is that if you do not have the alim or the mutlaq mujtahid, it's mentioned here by Muḥammad Abdul Wahhāb, if you do not have the mutlaq mujtahid, if you do not have that individual, then you cannot have any understanding of the Qur'an and Sunnah. However, there's a more in our deen, affairs in our deen, that you have to understand whether the mutlaq mujtahid is at your disposal or not. Does that make sense, Barakallahu Feekum? Naam. And so this matter is not one that diminishes the statement or the status of the mujtahid. And from that as well, it mentions some of the things that the mutlaq mujtahid should have, some of the characteristics he should have. From the characteristics that he should have is that he should have ilm of the ayat and the ahadith. So he should have knowledge of the Qur'an and Sunnah, the ayat and hadith, the texts. Likewise, he should have knowledge of ijmāʿ, the consensus. The consensus, which in of itself is used as a proof due to the hadith of the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, where he mentions that my ummah, my nation, will not unite upon falsehood. my ummah, my nation will not unite upon falsehood. Likewise, from the things that are required, I think before we go on, why do you think he needs to have knowledge of ijmāʿ? The mujtahid. Why do you think he needs to have knowledge of the ijmāʿ? Why is that important, specifically? Or why is it important? Of course, the Qur'ān and Sunnah, of course. But ijmāʿ, why?
Sometimes the companions have ijmāʿ on something.
The companions have ijmāʿ? No.
And that's religion. That's deen.
No. But Sahih? But why is it important for the mujtahid to have ijmāʿ? Knowledge of the ijmāʿ, should I say. Does the question make sense? Why? He doesn't need to make ijtihād, Sahih, because it's there, the Ruh comes there.
He wouldn't tire himself out making ijtihād or something when there's already ijmāʿ.
That's one thing. Now, something else as well.
If he has a different answer, he doesn't make fitna.
Mumtaz. That he doesn't oppose the ijmāʿ in what he makes a fatwa with. So he doesn't come with a fatwa that opposes the ijmāʿ. So if, for example, he doesn't have knowledge of the ijmāʿ and he says something that opposes it. But if he has knowledge of the ijmāʿ, then he won't oppose it. So these are from the reasons, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. Likewise, what we mentioned as well, from the things he shouldn't have knowledge of, we mentioned previously as well, he has knowledge of the nasikh and the mansukh. He has knowledge of the nasikh and the mansukh. He knows what text abrogates the other. And of course, he's able to derive particular rulings. He has the ability to derive rulings from the text that he has in front of him. The next point to mention as well is in relation to ijtihād. There are particular points where ijtihād is not applied. There are particular points where ijtihād is not applied. Now, and so from these matters where ijtihād does not apply is فيما يتعلق بالاعتقاد, يعني أصول الدين. So when it comes to the matters of the foundations of our deen, then ijtihād does not apply. The person cannot say, now I've come to my ijtihād, I've sought out the particular ruling, and by way of what I've sought, I've come to the conclusion that all of the Sahaba are udul, fiqhat. No, that's something you have to believe and accept straight away. Now that all the Sahaba are trustworthy, for example. So you open the door to that. Now a person can say, well, I did my ijtihād and I think that Sahabi fulan, and they start speaking ill of some of the companions. Naam, wa iyadhu billah. So when it comes to usul al-deen, this is not the matter of ijtihād. With that as well, this is a rejection and a refutation of those that say that when it comes to the matter of al-jarh wa ta'deel, it's a mas'ala ijtihadiyya. That is a masail ijtihadiyya. That when it comes to the matter of what is said about an individual, yani whether it be disparaging or whether it be praising, that this is ijtihād. That a person comes and he seeks to understand and he derives a ruling upon the individual. No, rather, the matter of jarh wa ta'deel is hujaj, yani attaining and establishing proofs for or against an individual. And this is how it's understood when it came to dealing with the rawat, the narrators, and it's understood how it came to dealing with those, yani this time, those that are the callers, whether they're callers to haqq or batil. And so when a person now states, this is the ijtihād. Now, reality is that this is a tool used to open up the door for what is referred to as a manhaj wasi' afiyah. Open the door for what is referred to as a manhaj wasi' afiyah. A manhaj which is vast and all accommodating. Why? Because now if you say, again, just as we said before, if you do not open the door for a person to say there's ijtihād when it comes to al-Uṣūl, foundations in deen. Just as we don't open the door when it comes to individuals saying that there is ijtihād in this particular matter here of al-jarh wa ta'deel. Why? Because now if it's understood and it's established what has been said for or against an individual and the proofs have been laid out, then we accept that. If now a person says, but it's upon his understanding and he makes it something which is now subjective, then it opens the door for an individual to say, well, my subjective opinion is different because my ijtihād was different. When you use the term ijtihād. So it's important to close the door upon all of these things. Close the door upon these things when it comes to usul. Close the door upon these things when it comes to this matter of protecting the deen by way of this affair of al-jarh wa ta'deel. When it comes to the disparaging or praising of an individual. The second thing mentioned as well from these umur where ijtihād does not apply is the matter of, going back to what we discussed previously as well, where there's ijmāʿ, there's a consensus in that affair. Now, where there's a consensus in that affair, and of course as well, the third we say is where there's no ijtihād when there is a clear text present. The presence of a clear text, there's no need for the ijtihād. As Ibn Qayyim, raḥimahullāh, he mentions, he states ijtihād إنما يعمل به عند العدم النص فإن تبين النص فإن تبين النص فلا اجتهاد. And so in relation to ijtihād is acted upon when there is the absence of a text. However, if the text is clear and it's as clear as there's a text, then there's no ijtihād. Let's say Ibn Qayyim raḥimahullah. And so, when it's referring to the nas, no doubt, and the dalil, then Ibn Qayyim goes on to mention as well, what is referred to as the nas is uṣūl kitābillah wa sunnati rasul, uṣūl kitābillah wa sunnati rasulihi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ijmāʿ ummatihi وقياس يوافق النصوص. And so when it's referring to the nas, the text, is referring to the Book of Allāh. So the uṣūl in nusus is the Book of Allāh, the Sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the ijmāʿ of his ummah, and qiyas, that is in accordance with the nas itself, the text. All of these things are from the uṣūl and the text itself. Allah Ta'ala knows best. As for the final point I want to mention in relation to this particular foundation, then as we mentioned that this particular foundation is a refutation of taqlīd al-muharram, taqlīd which is haram, and a taqlīd which opposes the sunnah and ijmāʿ. A taqlīd which opposes the sunnah and of course what the salaf were upon in consensus. For indeed, we accept that ittibā' is the asl. And that's why Shaykh al-Islām Muḥammad ibn Abdul Wahhāb mentions within the text this matter of ittibā', referring to ittibā' al-Sunnah, ittibā' al-Haqq, following the Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Whilst it's a rejection of أخذ الآراء وأهواء, rejection of the taking of the desires of the speech and the opinions of men. For no doubt we are in need of establishing the haqq based upon the Qur'an and the Sunnah, and based upon following that which is the haqq in of itself. Allah Ta'ala knows best. And then finally, the Shaykh concludes by way of concluding the text with what he began with, which was the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was-salatu was-salam ala rasulihi, as in the salutation upon the Nabi alayhi salatu was-salam. For indeed this is from the best of mannerisms that a person engages in when writing, and best of mannerisms when a person is engaging in joining the good and forbidding the evil, and this affair of deen in of itself. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. I will conclude with that point and with that foundation, and of course based upon that conclude with the text. Jazakumullah khaira wa barakallahu feekum wa sallallahu wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.